Before this video begins, I want to give a huge thanks to everyone who showed immense support on my latest video. Duck and the Diesel Engine has now exceeded 8,500 views, which doesn't seem like much, but to me, it definitely is. If you want to see more content from me, consider subscribing to the channel and checking out my other socials. Links will be in the description. Enjoy this video and the rest of your day. Here's version 1. And here is version 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Knapford Station. Now, before I explain how I put this thing together, I need to go over the reasoning behind it. Ever since I started my channel back in 2019, I have been endlessly inspired by custom makers, especially the ones who make buildings, such as stations, sheds, houses, etc. In late 2020, I felt inspired to make my own Knapford station, and the end result was this. I know. It almost looks as bad as the new 2025 motorized Gordon and James, almost. But in hindsight, it's not the worst thing I've ever made, and at the time, it was pretty good. But later on, it started showing up in more and more videos, and it started looking a little funky and out of place compared to the other builds I've done. Not to mention, it was falling apart pretty badly. I mean, what else do you expect? It was made by an inexperienced 14-year-old, so yeah. Then in July of 2024, me and a few friends got together and started writing a script for a huge project that is currently undergoing production that will be coming out sometime in the future. At this time, I started building a ton of new props for this project. Then I thought, I could take this opportunity to build a new Knapford station. And that's exactly what I did. But I didn't want it to turn out like that old piece of garbage. No, I wanted it to look exactly how it looks in the TV series. I originally was going to go with the rendition of Knapford Station from season 1, because that's like my favorite rendition of Knapford Station like ever. But then I thought, the Knapford Station in the hit era is a bit more iconic, at least to me. And it's clear that a lot of merchandise takes its inspiration from the hit era Knapford Station, all having the green outlines and such. So, I decided to take the Knapford Station from season 1 and the Knapford Station from the hit era and combine them to get the best of both worlds. And this is the end result. What are we waiting for? Let's talk about how I made it. Alright, pay attention people, because class is now in session. So I first started out with getting cardboard and making this kind of trapezoid shaped thing, right? And making a window. And I made 2 of them. And its height on this side is 4 inches, the height on this side is 2.5 inches, and it's overall 2 inches long this way. Then also using cardboard, I cut out 3 2.5 by 19 inch pieces. And then I cut little arches into one of them. One of the regular ones is going to be used for the roof, and the one with arches is going to be stacked on top of the other regular one. Hey, pay attention. I then cut out a 4-inch by 19-inch piece and cut little squares into it. This is what you will see when you're inside the station. Soon after I finished the walls, I realized I had made a mistake. Only one of these pieces has a window on it. In the actual show, the other one is just an open door. So I cut it out and fixed it. I then combined these with these to get that. And you may notice I added pegs on the roof. I'll explain that in a little bit. But basically, here's the result of the first build. Let's move on, shall we? Again, this was made mostly out of cardboard, and that's what I decided to make the platform out of. I first made the platform 1 inch tall to not make it look too goofy, and then I made it 2 inches wide and 20 inches long. And I made 2 of these since it's a U platform. Then I made the middle section. This will go in between the 2 platforms. I made it 3.5 inches long and 1 inch wide. I also added a hole at the top for something later. I then combined these 3 pieces to get the U platform, and I also added little poles and pillars to hold up the roof. Now, in the show, there's a little building at the end of the U platform. In season 9, it was recognized as a toy shop. I'm not really sure what it was before. It could have been an office, could have been a driver's con room, could have been an MC bun, I don't really care. But I decided to make it nonetheless. So, I decided to make it 5 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 2 inches tall. Also added these 2 little pillars at the top of the roof with pegs in them. That's for later, right? I also added a little peg at the bottom so it will fit into the hole at the bottom of the U platform. And the final result looks something like this. And if you're wondering, yes, the building is removable for better portability. Let's move on. I'm gonna be honest, I think the main building was the simplest part about this whole thing. The main platform is 3 inches wide, 1 inch tall, and 20 inches long, with a bunch of poles and pillars coming out of the top to hold up the roof. The main building is 19 inches long, 2.5 inches wide, and 4 inches tall. The stairs in the back are 4.5 inches long, 4 inches wide, and 1 inch tall. Once I combined all of these, I got this, with pegs on the roof for something I will explain in just a minute. The stairs are also on the back. And this is pretty much the end result. So now with the 3 buildings done, let's move on to the roof. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the paint I used for the building is Territorial Beige, and the paint I used for the platform and roof is Elephant Gray. Alright, so the roof was definitely the most complicated thing about this entire build. I had to cut out 24 different arches and paint them, and that took forever. But it was worth it, because it was coming together pretty well. The canopy was made out of 12 by 12 acetone sheets. They're cheap, flexible, and durable. This is also my first time using them, and I think it turned out pretty well. However, the first time I wrapped them around the arches, there was a problem. I had specific measurements for each piece of the canopy, and doing this technique made it too wide, so not every piece was going to fit perfectly. So, yeah, this is fine. It's not like it sent me back an hour or anything, so... But I soon fixed it with a better technique. I put the acetone sheets between the arches instead of wrapping it around them, and the result turned out to be much better, and every piece fit. Finally, the suffering was over. You may have noticed that the canopies have a more of a frosted glass look to them. This is because I wanted to replicate the canopies from the hit era, which have the same frosted glass look. This was achieved by painting the acetone sheets in a very thin coat of white. And then when it dried, I sprayed over it with clear polyurethane. This is usually used for wooden furniture, but hey, it works. The stripes and lines on the canopy is green permanent vinyl found at a local Walmart. You just cut it, peel it, and stick it on. Very helpful. I've labeled each canopy with a number, 1 through 4. This is to keep track of where each piece fits best on the roof. As you've probably guessed, the canopy is fully removable, for better portability and easier access to the trains. Here is what it looks like with no canopy. So each piece of the canopy actually sits on this cardboard base which I've painted green. And that's where the wooden pegs come in. They are here to connect the roof with each building. In fact, they're probably the most important part of this build, as they hold everything together. The green base is also removable for, you guessed it, better portability. This way, I can use each building in a different way, or I can just store them in different spots. This will also come in handy when I'm moving it around from set to set. Like I already stated, the building at the end of the U platform is removable, thanks to a peg underneath and a hole in the platform. This is helpful in case I want to use the platform in other ways, or if I want more varieties in different buildings. Who knows? After the roof was completed, the final step was adding detail. So, using Google Docs, I drew out some window and door designs, as well as a few posters to go on the wall for a bit more detail. I then printed them out, and it didn't print so well. But fortunately, this was an easy fix, and I grabbed a Sharpie and went over the poorly printed parts. I then glued them onto the station, both front and back. And it was done. The final step was complete. My Knapford station was finally finished. A great feature about it is that it's in scale for both Thomas Wooden Railway and Tomy and Trackmaster. And just to give you an idea of how big this thing really is, let's do a size comparison. Here it is next to the old Knapford station. Here it is next to my custom Tidmouth sheds. Here it is next to my custom Steamworks. And here it is next to my custom Vickerstown station, which is still the biggest build I've done to date. Overall, this project took a lot of effort, patience, time, critical thinking, and maybe just a few injuries. But at the end of the day, if you would have told me that it would have looked this good by the end, I would have been thrilled. And it looks absolutely fantastic when put on a set. You know what? I think I'd go as far to say that this is my best build that I've ever done so far. And I think most of you can agree. And I can't wait to use it in a future video. So with that, thank you for watching this custom showcase, and I'll see you in the next one.